Hello, and welcome to another episode of Mountain Standard True Crime. I'm your host, Michelle Carlson. Thanks for watching and/or listening. This episode is about the tragic disappearance of a Utah National Guardsman in the fall of 2024. This case might be disturbing to some and is not appropriate for children. All information shared by us is either from publicly available sources and/or official Government Records Access and Management Act or GRAMA requests. Our views and opinions about cases on our vodcast are strictly that and are not meant to be interpreted as facts. And here we go. Utah National Guardsman Matthew Johnson was reported missing on September 23, 2024, after he didn't show up to work at his Utah National Guard base. This was highly unusual for him. The Guard was planning to list Johnson as AWOL. The 5'9" 178-pound, 51-year-old shaved-head man was last seen on September 20th in the area of 3000 East, Fort Union Boulevard in Cottonwood Heights, Utah. Johnson lived in the middle to upper-class Cottonwood Heights city, located close to the beautiful canyons, Big and Little Cottonwood Canyons. On September 28, 2024, Jennifer Gledhill called Cottonwood Heights Police Department to report that her husband was missing. She told law enforcement that her husband had not been seen or heard from since they had a fight on September 20th. She also said that Johnson had told her he would be gone for a week and not to call him. A confidential informant reported to investigators that he had been having an affair with Gledhill, and that on Sunday, September 22nd, she came over to his house and said that on the 20th, Johnson had come home and yelled at her because he knew that she had been sleeping with someone else. The informant said that Gledhill openly admitted to killing her husband by shooting him in the head as he slept inside their master bedroom of their home. She told the informant that she put Johnson's body into a rooftop storage container, slid him down the stairs of their home, and loaded his body into the back of their minivan. I don't think she would have been able to do that by herself. If he was 5'9" and 178 pounds, she is a few inches shorter than him, according to pictures, and just an average-sized woman. I really doubt she would be strong enough to pull this off solo. I mean, lifting a 178-pound tote into the back of a minivan? I'm pretty damn strong for a woman, and there's no way I could do that. Gledhill said she smashed Johnson's phone and hid his truck in a nearby neighborhood. She then said she took her husband's body north, dug a hole, and buried him in a shallow grave. Again, this is a lot for a single person, especially an average-sized woman. The informant said that he noticed bruises all over Gledhill's body, and when he asked her about them, she said they were from moving Johnson's body and cleaning their house. The statement of a neighbor that lives within the view of the Johnson-Gledhill home stated that on September 20th, 2024, she observed Matthew's truck backed into the garage, and that the night after, September 21st, and into the early morning of September 22nd, she could hear Gledhill and Johnson arguing. On September 30th, his maroon Dodge 1500 pickup was found a few blocks from his home. On October 1st, police began requesting assistance from the public, asking for anyone who may have seen Johnson or may have information about him to come forward. Cottonwood Heights police said officers had previously been called to the family's home and that they knew the couple were considering divorcing. I've requested recordings of those 911 calls, but I so far have not received anything. This is just another far too common case of someone ending up dead because of an impending divorce. Matthew Johnson's divorce attorney, Brady Gibbs, told KSL TV5, in the communications that I saw between them, there were a number of things that she called him, just horrible things, trying to elicit a response, and his response in a lot of that was, please just leave me alone. Please think about what you're doing. Gibbs said that the home where they resided was Johnson's prior to their marriage, and that the home was at the heart of their divorce dispute. He said they were fighting about the equity in the home and that Gledhill moved out of the home in March of 2024, so she wasn't even living there. Gibbs said Gledhill regained access to the home when she filed for a temporary protective order against Johnson and listed the Cottonwood Heights address as her own in August. Court documents show the matter was eventually dismissed. Commissioner Russell Minus heard oral arguments, reviewed videos of various incidents, and read text messages between the parties. Minus concluded that a civil protective order was not warranted and that the petitioner had not met her burden. Minus further concluded that text messages showed Gledhill repeatedly berated, belittled, and demeaned Johnson, quote, if not outright attempting to goad him into a violent response, end quote, concluding that the petition was more a litigation tactic in a pending divorce matter. He said that this was likely a ploy to gain advantage in the divorce. Gibbs said that. According to records, the order to dismiss the matter was filed on September 16th, just days before Gledhill told her lover that she had shot Johnson while he slept in their once marital bed. There would have been no ability for her to get in the home if not for the improper request for a protective order, Gibbs said. Mr. Johnson was an Army Ranger. He was very capable of defending himself. This was the only way that Ms. Gledhill could get the access she needed to kill him. He was a guy who really loved his kids and wanted to be around his kids, and all he wanted was peace. And he just couldn't get that, Gibbs said. Gledhill's divorce attorney, Taryn Evans, disagreed with Gibbs's claims about the protective order and said that it had not been proven that the home was Johnson's prior to their marriage. On October 2nd, Johnson's wife, 41-year-old Jennifer Gledhill, was arrested for murder and obstruction of justice. Johnson had not had contact with anyone, including his children, since September 21st. His phone was going straight to voicemail. He never returned to work and left no evidence that would lead investigators to believe he was still alive. So they were comfortable stating that he was likely deceased. The state of Utah requested that she be held without bail, stating, quote, in this case, the defendant presents a substantial danger to the community and to the integrity of law enforcement's investigation if released on bail. Record searches reveal that the defendant had previously made unsuccessful attempts to secure a protective order against Matthew during the course of their marriage and was found by the court to be an instigator and one to goad Matthew into a response in order to get him in trouble. The state believes that defendant was very calculating in her crimes, in that she arranged for the children to stay with her parents during the evening Matthew was killed. Investigation further revealed that she asked her parents to keep the children for another day, presumably while she was cleaning up the crime scene and disposing of Matthew's body. The evidence is significant that the defendant obstructed the investigation by removing the mattress she admitted to the informant that she shot Matthew on while he was sleeping and replaced it days later with a new mattress. Detectives noted through interviews that the cargo box was observed at the home on prior occasions and has since disappeared. Many of the informant's statements have been corroborated by other evidence, including her admission to her burying him up north in a shallow grave, consistent with her cell phone travel on September 22, 2024. The location of the bloodstain is also consistent with where one would normally place their head on a mattress while sleeping. The gun described by the informant was also consistent with the gun hidden in a onesie at her parents' home. The informant reported that the defendant hid Matthew's truck in a nearby neighborhood, which was corroborated. Further, the bruising observed by the informant on the defendant's arms and legs were, as she stated to him, consistent with moving Matthew's body from the home into the cargo box and out of the home. The evidence is substantial, and if released, the state believes the defendant will continue her efforts to cover her crimes. Further, the defendant is a flight risk. The defendant told the informant that she would kill herself before spending the rest of her life in prison, or that she would flee to Indiana with her children. Due to the serious nature of the allegations, the defendant should be held in jail without bail. Gledhill's children, ages 7 and 5, have been in the custody of the Utah Division of Child and Family Services since their mother was arrested for the death of Matthew Johnson, and she has been ordered by the court to have no contact with them. But I have to wonder why they are still in DCF custody and not with family. I think usually they try to put the children with family unless there's no one suitable to take them, but I don't know. I could be wrong on that. Just feels super bad for the kids, as always. Investigators obtained information from electronic devices leading them to believe the remains of Johnson were at the same undisclosed location described by the informant. During the search of their shared home, investigators found a large blood-stained spot in the master bedroom carpet underneath the bed. Blood was also found on the bed frame slats, which supports what the informant told police. Police said evidence found at the scene supports that significant cleanup had taken place following the murder, including bleaching of the walls and using carpet cleaning supplies. A circular pattern on the carpet below the bed on the right side near the head of the bed tested positive for human blood. The mattress located in the bedroom was found to be a new one. During a search of Gled Hill's Chrysler Pacifica minivan, detectives located a black box containing 3 small cardboard cylinders that contained a powdered plant substance. Inside a black fanny pack were 6 Ziploc bags containing what appeared to be psilocybin mushrooms that appeared to be packaged for individual sale. As a side note, microdosing with magic mushrooms has become somewhat common in Utah. Inside a white purse was $206 in a pocket on the interior of the purse. Detectives also noted that the back seats in the van were folded down, increasing the cargo capacity of the van. On October 15, 2024, Salt Lake County District Attorney Sim Gill filed the following charges against Jennifer Gledhill for her alleged connection to the disappearance and apparent death of her husband, Matthew Johnson. The charges are 1 count of first-degree felony murder, 5 counts of second-degree felony obstruction of justice, 1 count of second-degree felony possession with intent to distribute, 1 count of third-degree felony desecration of a human body, and 1 count of third-degree felony witness tampering. More details about the case were shared with the public, including that a neighbor told police that on September 24, 2024, she saw the defendant's parents in the defendant's house cleaning. They did not leave the house until 11 p.m. When police confronted the defendant's parents about them being at the defendant's home on the 24th, her mother said she was only there for an hour. She also told police she had purchased a mattress from Amazon at the request of the defendant. The defendant's father said he didn't remember details of the day, except that he had been at the defendant's house for a short period of time. Detectives confronted the defendant's father about how long he was at the house and if he went into the master bedroom, and he responded, "I did not go in where the accident happened." GPS data from the defendant's phone shows on the day that she told the informant she killed her husband, the defendant traveled to where her husband's truck was later found at around 6 a.m. That afternoon, GPS data put her in Davis County until her phone was turned off at around 2:37 p.m. The phone was turned on around 5 p.m. as she was traveling eastbound on the West Davis corridor. Later that same day, the defendant's vehicle was captured on camera at a Holiday Oil on Highland Drive in Salt Lake County. The defendant thoroughly cleaned the car and opened all the doors. She left the car wash at 11:07 p.m. and then went to the informant's house at 11:47 p.m., consistent with the timing the informant told detectives. Detectives served a search warrant at the defendant's parents' home and found a plastic tote near the bedroom where the defendant would sleep while she stayed there. In the tote was a Glock 19X gun box that was green and tan in color, wrapped in a child's onesie. The gun container is consistent with the gun model and color which she had shown to the informant loaded on September 19, 2024. Blood below the bed was tested and shown to be from a single male source. Testing is still underway to compare the single source to Mr. Johnson's data. The body of Mr. Johnson has not been located. No one in Mr. Johnson's life has heard from him since September 21st, which is inconsistent with his pattern of life. And I just wanted to make one correction. I previously said that she showed the loaded gun to the informant on September 19th, and I do believe that that was on September 22nd. Our hearts go out to the loved ones of Mr. Matthew Johnson, not only a father and son, but a member of the Utah National Guard. Our office will continue to work closely with investigators as we seek justice for Mr. Johnson, said Salt Lake County District Attorney Sim Gill. We appreciate Cottonwood Heights Police Department detectives working with our prosecutors as they worked to collect the evidence necessary to file these charges. All persons accused of wrongdoing are presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty in a court of law. On Friday, October 18th, the affidavit for a search warrant previously requested by Cottonwood Heights Police was released, with details showing that Gledhill had reached out to police to report a domestic violence incident on September 24th, one day after Johnson was reported missing. Gledhill told an officer that, quote, bruises were all over her body, end quote, and she wanted them photographed. She told the officer that on the night of September 20th, she and Johnson, who were separated at the time, began talking and drinking whiskey. The two agreed to have consensual sexual intercourse that night. Jennifer informed the officer that due to the intoxication from the whiskey, she had a hard time recalling the events that took place after her and Matthew had sex, the warrant states. However, the man with whom Gledhill was having an extramarital affair told police that she admitted to shooting Johnson in the head on September 21st, and that when she noticed bruises on her arms and legs, she said they had come from moving Matthew's body and cleaning the mess in the house. According to the officer, Gledhill wasn't sure if she had lost consciousness or if she had simply gone to bed after she had allegedly been beaten. When asked why she didn't report the incident until the next morning, Gledhill claimed it was because she had, quote, made a deal, end quote, with Johnson, and that she had a, quote, long history of calling the police on Matthew for non-criminal altercations, and that Matthew had told her the police would not believe her if she called, end quote. On October 24th, Jennifer Gledhill's parents, Thomas Ray Gledhill, age 71, and Rosalie Christiansen Gledhill, age 67, were arrested. In addition to being suspected of helping to clean up the murder scene and purchasing a new mattress that was later picked up by Gledhill at her parents' home, according to a probable cause statement, Rosalie Gledhill told police she was at her daughter's home for less than an hour to pick up clothing. Neighbors told police they saw the woman at the home for more than 5 hours. Police took Rosalie Gledhill's phone to pull data about her whereabouts during that time. They found the phone had been remotely reset, losing all of the data. Officials said they looked at Jennifer Gledhill's digital footprint after Johnson's disappearance. Police said on September 22nd, when Jennifer Gledhill was suspected of driving north into Davis County to dispose of Johnson's body in a shallow grave, that the only call she made was to Thomas Gledhill. The phone was then shut off for a few hours before turning back on. Court documents said she then called her father. Gledhill's parents were charged with 4 felony counts of first-degree obstruction of justice. They found a conversation between her and her father about the new mattress to be delivered to his home and later picked up by her. Court records show prosecutors have handed over forensic files, items linked to Gledhill's minivan, and a baggie discovered in the beautiful Little Cottonwood Canyon in Salt Lake County. While no murder weapon has been publicly confirmed, the discovery includes a Glock handgun. The discovery also lists cell phone screen grabs, call logs, email records, and activation locks for an iPhone and iPad. Johnson's body has still not been found, which is leaving prosecutors to rely heavily on circumstantial and digital evidence to build their case. Gledhill appeared in court on October 25th, asking for the protective order banning her from having contact with her 3 children to be lifted. At the end of the hearing, Judge Adam Moe actually lifted the pre-trial protective order, but issued a separate no-contact order to be put in place, which means Gledhill is still not allowed to communicate with her children. Mo said that as the case proceeds, he would be willing to carve out exceptions to the no contact order, seeing as how it not only affects Gledhill, but the children as well. As of the recording of this episode, Matthew Johnson's body has still not been found. It is January of 2025 now, and we do not know if Jennifer Gledhill's parents are still in jail or not. I've not been able to find that information. KUTV's Brian Schnee interviewed Johnson's ex-wife, and these are a few things she had to say about him. Quote, Matt is probably the best Marine special ops, which is interesting because his attorney, earlier in this presentation, I read a quote from him that called him an Army Ranger. We'll go on to the rest of her quote. He is probably the best you'll ever find. He is very devoted, dedicated. He is a hard worker. He is fantastic at leading a team and having that control. She said that she learned about his likely death and probable murder on TikTok. When asked what she thought about Jennifer being a suspect, she said, at first I was shocked. Then I thought there's no way. He probably just disappeared. He was tired of his life. He wanted to run away. That was my first initial thought. Then I called my dad and said, now I'm worried. In the past, I can see him pulling a stunt like that, disappearing, because that has been my experience, you know. He leaves, comes back, causes chaos. That's just been my experience. He was part of our life for 12 years. That's sad. He will always be a part of my history and my boy's history. Like, it's just sad. I feel so bad for his kids. That's the worst part about everything, by far the worst. She also had claimed that she'd never met Jennifer Gledhill. We hope that Matthew Johnson is found and that if Jennifer Gledhill truly is guilty, which it appears to me she is, I hope she gets the punishment she deserves. These cases are so sad for the children. They lose both of their parents, one to death and one to prison. It breaks my heart for them. We'll keep you posted on any developments in this tragic case, and please leave any comments you would like to share. I just want to make one more comment that this Jennifer Gledhill person really seems like a piece of work, and it's too bad that they couldn't have just gotten the divorce that obviously they needed and moved on before something like this happened. But anyway, here we are. And thanks for listening and or watching, and we'll catch you next time.